California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna joins me now. He serves as the ranking member on the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. So, Congressman, let's pick it up from there. You just heard Ed O'Keefe summarize some human rights concerns, the Taiwan issue, and something that Boeing got out of this trip. I want you to give me your summary of what has happened the last 2 days in Beijing.
First, we didn't do enough for our manufacturers or farmers or workers here. I mean, I'm glad that China committed to 200 planes, but in his first term, Trump got 300 planes. And as you know, Major, the hope was that he would get 500 planes. He got no commitment from China to stop holding rare earths and critical minerals as a monopoly. They still may run out in supplying them to us at the end of the year. He got no commitment for them to stop their subsidies. And he took Wall Street leaders and other business leaders to beg for $1 trillion of investment in America for Chinese factories that would put more Americans out of work.
What about Taiwan? As Ed O'Keefe just described, the administration had indicated earlier this year $14 billion in arms sales. It hadn't gone through the State Department process, had not been formally notified to Congress, but it's still out there. And now the president at least has created some doubt about its future. How do you evaluate that?
I'm concerned about that. I voted for those $14 billion. It was bipartisan on the China committee. We affirmed the one China policy that China and Taiwan should negotiate the future of Taiwan as bilateral matter and in a peaceful manner. But what we are opposed to is China using military force or military coercion to go after Taiwan. And the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979 is clear that the United States will support Taiwan to make sure that China does not use military coercion. The reality is, as people know, that China is tightening the noose around Taiwan. They have more of their ships patrolling the Taiwanese island. And in 1982, we offered Taiwan 6 assurances. One of those assurances was that we would not seek China's permission to provide them with arms. We should uphold those 6 assurances. They've held us well for decades, and I'm concerned that Trump may be compromising them.
And do you think that his equivocation on this future transaction, the $14 billion, will be perceived by Xi Jinping and those around him as, at least for the moment, a victory?
I do. Look, we've always had strategic ambiguity. Strategic ambiguity is about exactly what the United States says is going to do. But we've never had equivocation about the Taiwan Relations Act. We've always maintained on a bipartisan basis that the United States reserves the right to provide arms to Taiwan, to provide support to Taiwan, not because we seek war, but because we want to make sure that China doesn't use military force. And if China wants to meet with the KMT, as they recently did, KMT is the opposition party in Taiwan, and they want to discuss the future of Taiwan, fine, that's between them. We affirm one China in terms of diplomatic negotiation and conversation, but we will not watch a military coercion of Taiwan.
What about future U.S. business action in China? I read something today, and I'm not an expert on this at all, Congressman, but that Facebook had announced earlier this week acquisition of a Chinese company, and then the Chinese government blocked it or held it in abeyance. What's going on there?
Well, China has basically restricted our technology companies, our social media companies from having access there for doing business there, not just to consumers, but also with their businesses. That is why it would be catastrophic for America to say, okay, now China, come, we want you to set up Chinese factories in the United States. I was at one of the American factories in Meadville, Pennsylvania, a glass manufacturer. They're having to compete with Fuyao in Ohio, a Chinese company. That Chinese company has undocumented labor. They're abusing labor. They're getting Chinese subsidies, and they're putting Americans in Meadville, Pennsylvania out of work. I don't want more of that.
There's an investigatory process any administration could do about what you just described. Is there one going on now under the Trump administration?
No, ironically, Biden administration was investigating it, and right now we're waiting for the report. So I don't want to be partisan. I'm hoping that there will be a report and there will be enforcement. But look, the president identified the problem. He was correct about the China shock. He was correct that China ate our lunch, that they took a lot of our manufacturing jobs. He convinced the American people he was going to stand up for them, stand up for the workers and manufacturers and farmers. I didn't see many of them on the trip. Look, obviously, every president takes business leaders, but I would have thought he would mix it up with some of the farmers and factory workers and manufacturers that he's been campaigning, saying he would protect for the last decade. And I'm saddened for them that he really was there with the global elite making deals with China. That's been the problem in this country.
You take great pride in California. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. Why is Tom Steyer the best person in California to be the next governor?
Yes, he has run the most innovative campaign, and he's said, I'm a billionaire, but I'm willing to pay more tax so that Californians don't lose health care. He's willing to look at single payer, especially when we have a AI world and people are fearing job loss. You should have health care not tied to your job. And he has a bold record on climate. But look, this race is going to come down to Tom Steyer and Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton. Steve Hilton will likely make it into the top two, and then one of our Democrats is going to make it. I hope it's Steyer.
California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, thanks for the time.
Thank you.